So you just tried to walk into the club, and the bouncer just put his hand up and was like, no.
I get that a lot.
So you got into the piggy channel. So
Oh, I like your portrait.
Oh, good choice. Good
I
choice,
see it.
my
You're
man.
a man of culture as well.
Dude, I mean, dirt festers are just the most majestic creature. You know, people talk about like vipers, and they talk about Thors, but nothing beats a dirt fester.
Alright, I'm just turning down the things that are going to distract me if they're super loud.
Yep, I'm gonna turn down my game sound just a little bit, put some music on, but nice and quietly, some in-game music. Probably check this up on YouTube later as well, I guess, and assume we could do the same if it ends up being good. We could always just like yell at each other or something. I'd be like,
I'm
"You need
pretty
to
sure that
build
would
more
actually get more
drones."
views, but... Alright, let me load one up. I actually win this game, but here's the problem with my... You know what, I'm going to take off push to talk, because I always gesture a bunch. Even though you can't see me, everybody else can, so...
No worries, man. Oh, and is it mech or bio that we're focusing on? I assume it's like mech, since that's
I think I kind of... At risk of sounding a little pretentious, I think I understand both, but I actually struggle more against bio, because I find it a lot easier to throw against bio than against mech, really. Though this game here is actually against mech. It's pretty hard. So what usually happens for me, I know what you're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to get your 4th base pretty quick, and you get your upgrades, and you work up towards Hive. And then sometime between actually getting Hive tech and using layer tech, I manage to throw away my entire army and lose the game, or get into a position I shouldn't have been. And I always know when I'm doing it, but I can't stop myself for some reason. It's a suicidal tendency for me.
Yeah, man, it's all like efficiency and generally bad engagements of the losing thing with mech. Hey, so can I be the lobby host, or do you want to steer the replays?
1 minute. I'm trying to turn you up. Oh wait, let's see if this works.
No worries. I am leaning back a little bit from my mic, so I'll try to make
Is
sure
that better,
stays
guys?
stable. For you guys in chat, let me know. I think Winter should be perfect volume, but you guys can let me know. Sounds like about the right level of volume.
Alright.
And as we go, if you guys have any questions, yeah, we might play a few 2v2s afterwards. You know, if we're down, I don't have a lot of energy, but I wouldn't. I'm always down.
I'm here for you.
2v2s if Winter's free. So
I'm on the other side of the world, even though
Hells yeah.
it is 10 p.m.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you-
normally start like 8 or 9. You kind of go through to like 3
I just tell
a.m. or
people
something,
I work
4
9 to
4
5,
a.m.
but the other side when they ask me.
Nice. Just going to sleep as the sun's rising, that sort of thing. Yeah.
So how do you usually do it? What I think is what I've been doing, and what I like to do, and I mean I'm sure you'll tell me, but I go into like pro games or something. You got like Thermi, any stuff from Base Trade, and I try to look at what they're doing and why, and just pause it and see like what did you just see and why are you doing this. So how do you usually, when you're trying to learn something, go over things?
Yeah, that's definitely something which is cool, which I don't really do as much these days because I normally do it through VODs. I guess because I cast so many games, so like a lot of my learning is kind of just done naturally through casting because I watch so many games live through people's viewpoints.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same as watching from a replay, right? Because like I do a lot of swapping onto their camera, like if I'm not observing, of course. But I do a lot of self-analysis as well. Like I'm a big believer in that, like drawing inspiration from like, you know, everyone who's better than you, and there's always 1,000 people who are better than you, unless you're, you know, rank 500 pro gamer in the world or better. There's always a ton
Let's
of
not get too
people.
literal. The idea stands.
Exactly. It's like, you know, innovation. It's lonely up there. He's just like, who do I copy? Oh, you know, he's got to figure that shit out for himself. But for us, it is all good. So, basically, I like drawing inspiration and every now and then saying, if I'm really stuck, let's look at this and kind of try and solve it. But I guess because I've been playing so many years, it used to be a lot more, let's watch from their viewpoint. How does their build work? It's a lot more just taking little pieces of what other people do now, and just a lot more self-analysis in terms of choose a direction, choose a composition.
Yeah, you
I
have your
find
own
fun.
style you like, right? And then
Yeah.
you see something you like, you might add it in, but you're still going to play your style more than just copy someone outright.
Exactly, and then like it motivates you, right? Because you're doing whatever you find fun. Like for instance, against Bio, I like playing mutas because I really like counterattacking
Oh yeah.
a lot, and that's what I
I like
really
playing
enjoy.
mutas too, but I also like winning, so there's a bit of a split
Yeah, we
there.
hear that one quite a lot. So you know what I'm gonna do? I think what's a really good idea is we can write like a couple of key points while we go, and we can share that with everyone at the end. We can say,
All right.
Winter's special time Zerg vs Terran improving stream with Pig, and that's the name of the document. I'll share
Sounds good.
I'll make it just so I can write in it for now, but if you want to write anything, just let me know and I'll give you the notes for it as well. But for now, I figure I'll just give you that link, and I'll also give this to anyone in chat. You guys can spread that around as much as you want, mods, and likewise if you share that with your chat. And we can kind of write notes, and there might end up being a good little set of resources in there, and you can maybe share that out freely with the stream. So overlay would be nice. Good job, Pig.
Would you ruin something?
The gameplay. I just didn't have the overlay up at all because I wasn't even looking at the gameplay.
Oh, you haven't even. They've just been on the out of game time kind of screen you got for the entire time.
And they can hear like a Reaper and a Zergling skirmish.
Do we want to go back to the beginning and actually talk about the game, maybe a little bit?
We will in a sec. Like, right? I honestly, this is just random eye candy, and like, there's nothing we're looking at the game just yet. But for now,
I mean, at this level, I guess if you were talking to like a platinum Zerg who doesn't know why you would take a third base before the 5-minute mark, it's a little bit different. But I've started doing. I saw Scarlet do this against Alive, and I liked it. Was just stop messing around with the Reaper and just get a third queen instead of trying to get a sneaky third base or something, and just get the creep spread a little quicker. So just a little detail I've started adding that I like, instead of stressing out about how good his Reaper micro is and stuff like that.
And just like slowing down rather than trying to like sneak the drone out to your third and that sort of thing, you mean? Yeah, I like that as well. That's a lot of pro Zergs at the moment, their flavor, the new thing, which they didn't do for a long time, is like trying to hide the drone over there, and they do the extractor, and kind of then like, oh, the Reaper's there, so I'll send my Zerglings across the map. Personally, I just do the same thing as you're doing, and that's totally fine. So one thing we are seeing is exceptionally fast upgrades and Baneling tech. As well as
he drove out my Overlord with 2 Marines, so I didn't really know what was back there, so I just kind of played it safe, was the thought process.
Are you playing against mech? Do you just go off this opening into Lingbane, Hydra? That sort
Usually,
of
yeah. That's where it's going to end up as well.
Do you
He's actually about to do a Cyclone.
To...
He's actually going to use a Cyclone Hellbat push, and I didn't see the second factory, so this is just, I was just preparing for like a Hellbat push, so it gets a little bit dicey dealing with the Cyclones. Do you see
you normally go Swarm Host Viper afterwards, or
something like that? I'm not very confident with Swarm Hosts. I usually I'll make a round because you're supposed to, and then they don't end up getting as much value as they could. I'm really mid-game, and that's why I have a tendency to throw in this matchup, because ZVT is the one matchup where you want to be on top of the tech, so you get a big advantage. Otherwise, you're running into siege tanks or something, right? So,
yeah.
But I have a tendency to not make those late-game units, and that kind of screws me over, I guess. I mean, I know the problem, or maybe you'll see a problem that I'm not even noticing. That's kind of the idea, right? So.
Cool, man. I think the biggest one is, even when people are going bio, they're usually opening up with Hellions at the moment, right? That's like probably 95% of your games. So I think the biggest thing, which you're gonna sometimes lose games because of, is the upgrades being so fast. And this is something which is like really common. And I feel like if you're playing against a 2-1-1, you know exactly what's gonna happen. You know exactly when they're gonna hit. You know how to prepare for it because you spent 6 months playing against it every game, like every other Zerg. And you can squeeze the upgrades in, right?
Yeah.
But when they do these Hellion openings, there's like so much variability, right? So whether or not you scout, even if you scouted, say, and you saw a factory and a starport, you don't know if it's going to be a Hellion drop into a Liberator. You don't know if it's going to be 4 Hellbats dropped in the main, 4 Hellbats hitting the third, while a Liberator hits your natural. There's like 1,000 variations, and the upgrades don't help against any of them. So there's like a lot of games are usually lost in this pressure stage, where the Terran, because the Zerg's investing in these upgrades which don't really help that yet, there's like just not quite enough Queens or Zerglings, or there's not enough drones. So in this case, like this is an example of you getting good upgrades, good unit defense, good queen count. So you've got everything. The problem is because
He
you're doing
definitely could have
all of
taken
that-
out that base if he had focused a little better, though. I was definitely caught off guard by the Cyclones, and I think if I had like 5 or 6 more Banes to start...
Do you think you'd go Roach Warren if you scouted double factory normally?
I really don't like, it would be like a Ravager Ling kind of defense, right? Or Roach Ravager. I feel like,
Yeah.
I always feel like that becomes too much of now I have to hit a timing because I have no drones or tech after that. It's like you get Roach speed and you hope for the best, which can work. I mean, I've seen plenty of games like pro games where the Zerg ends up going Roach Ravager. I just don't like going for that tech that kind of slows down all your other tech is the problem.
It definitely does, and I feel like maybe finding a middle ground of counter pressuring to delay their third, but not overcommitting to it, is probably the best way to play that off the back of the Roaches, because you definitely do end up with a lot of these units, which if you're used to trying to just go Hydraling Bane, you're used to having, you know, these longer term units. Roaches obviously kind of aren't as good. The thing is, it basically just shuts down this sort of aggression so hard, whereas with Queenling Bane, even when you're well prepared, like, it's always a little bit dicey. Like, if he's building 4 Hellions at a time right now, you know, like, and they all morph into Hellbats and spread out, like, it could be really scary if he spreads well versus the Banelings, right?
When would you say you would get the Roach one for that? Because I don't see the clones until he already has them across the map. So it's kind of hard to, like, preemptive Roach Warren against Hellions, or...
Only if you scout double factory. Let's like just talking about that scenario.
So I don't go for Overlord speed most of the time. Would this be a scenario to just get Overlord speed and make sure I know what he's doing because he's driving out my Overlord?
I think in this case we can just stay a middle ground, but we're just talking about like the scenario because I think a lot of the times they will just put the factory in a much easier to scout location. I think in this situation it's fine to be blind against it, and you can still defend with Queenling Bane. It's just if you scout it, I really think Roaches makes your life like so much easier. So I think that's just something to kind of mention because if you're scouting,
so as soon as the first Cyclone show up,
Bane,
make a Roach one, pretty much. Or if you see the double factory.
It might be too late at that point. It's your call, really, but it's just if you see the double factory. Like in this case, if you're not going to see it till it hits you, I think that's fine. Queenling Bane all the way. You don't need to bother. It's kind of too late to start going Roaches. But if we're kind of thinking back to imagine your Overlord went in, there was just one Marine, you went right through, saw a second factory, you'd be like, oh, okay, let's just build a Roach Horn instead of that Baneling Nest. And it would just be like a different trunk of your build. You kind of go down a different branch, right? If Scout double factory, I think Roach Horn just makes your life easier. But in this scenario, like I said, the double upgrades I think is the biggest thing, which you can change across all of your games. Basically, cut double upgrades. And what we're going to do is, obviously we don't want to totally negate them, but what we're going to say is we're going to say a rule. I want to say 5 minutes earliest for your double Evo. And what that'll
starting
do,
the double Evo or upgrading?
Yeah, for starting the double Evo.
Okay.
And that sounds kind of late. And I'll let you have one exception, which is verse 211. You can just do it this way. Do it your normal
What
way.
if I see a
That's
third
the
command
exception.
center? Like,
Still
just
no.
reactor Hellion. Still no? Okay.
Yeah. I think the only Terran build, because you obviously play random. You know the build where you go 3cc, like 4 Hellion, 3cc with no starport, all off one gas?
And then you're getting like pretty quick stim and your production on?
Yeah, like 3 barracks and then you add the starport like really late.
As a Zerg, I actually always look at that. I'm like, I'm not sure what to do here. Do I all in them? Like,
I feel like you need to like go completely all in or just completely upgrades and drones against
and then
that
like,
because it's like
3
one or the other.
medevacs and Marines show up and I don't have a Baneling nest and I regret everything. It's usually what happens to me. But,
yeah, you gotta get the Baneling nest. It's always surprising, isn't it, the medevac timing off that build, because you're like, oh yeah, he's going 3CCs, like he's being greedy. And then it always feels like the drop gets there earlier than it should. That's something I always remind myself. Like, I always want to drone my 4th against that build, and I'm like, don't do it, pig. Don't drone that 4th hatchery.
Yeah.
Build around a Ling Bane.
I'd say 70% of my ZVT losses are either what I do in this game. I don't lose the game, but I very well could have if he had played a little better. Which is just get into a good position and then throw it away. And then 2 is make too many drones or get behind, make too many drones and get behind early, or just get behind early because I didn't respond correctly in the first place. There's not much like super late game, or like back and forth mid game. It's always just a big obvious mistake where I'm like, oh god, I can't believe I made 74 drones. or something like that.
Greedy Zerg syndrome, we call that. I think Vibe knows all about that as well. Like Vibe's a guy who's like, whenever we play customs together, he's like, either he has 85 drones and he is unstoppable, or I catch him on his way to 85 drones and he just dies because he has no fighting units. I think let's look at your vision. Is this like your normal Overlord pattern for this map?
I've been looking at my vision the entire time.
So what about, is this the Overlord pattern?
The first Overlord straight up and just sees the Reaper come out and sees if a reactor's on the way. The second Overlord I send to the right side to check for proxies. And then I usually, if I send it from there directly into the main, it usually gets into the main around 3:30, which is pretty good, right? So, and then the third OV I usually send towards the third on the left side. And then the fourth one I just kind of try to put somewhere useful. Like, I think it goes in the middle or something like that.
Okay. So it's interesting that, your third and fourth Overlord come quite so far across the map. So what I really like...
I get screwed by Vikings every time.
Yeah, because you're sending them far out, and also you're not having quite as much coverage against the Hellion harass, and because you're very queen reliant on your defense, which is good. I love queen reliant defense. It's the most solid,
it's the best unit in the game.
Deterrents to play against. Oh, actually, that points. Oh, so many things, so many little details. Ooh, details. I'm getting excited.
Well, that's what we're talking about.
All right, chill pill pig. Calm down. Let's just start. I'm like, I have to write these down right now before I forget them all. Okay, first one, queens. Only 2 creep tumors at the front, 1 connecting main. That's all you're allowed until after you hold.
I love my creep spread though. My precious creep. That way I can. But don't you know, as a streamer, when you lose the game, you can still have people saying, "But that was good creep spread though." Like, and that purple's halfway across the map.
You've got Scarlet round of 16 Codes level creep spread, so it's all okay.
Well, she also can make mutas and win. So.
Yeah, exactly. A skill many of us wish we could have, but your creep count is insane, and you don't have many transfuses because of it. You would have had a ton of transfuse, and this hold would have been a lot easier. Especially against, like, the classic, really old school. I've got 6 Marines and a medevac and 6 Hellbats, and I'm hitting you at 4 minutes 40.
Oh yeah,
that classic timing. No one does it anymore. I think you'd really struggle with it, because you spend so much on these creep tumors. You'd only have 1 at most 2 transfuses when it hits. So I think if you just limit yourself to 2 creep tumors, like 1 heads towards in front of the third, 1 kind of heads out through the middle, and maybe you ignore this path. See where can you see my signal?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I still would do the connecting one in the main, because, if a Liberator goes in and kills your queen in your main and you can't get back up there, that can be game ending. But I think if you limit it to 3 creep tumors, you'll have like an extra 3 transfuses or something during most.
So no more extra creep tumors until after like 5.5 minutes, and you know what they're doing. Pretty much.
I was going to say exactly that. 5.5 minutes is kind of like, basically, like, usually they're going to have shown their hand with, is it Big Hellion Banshee push, Hellbat Cyclone, Hellbat drop? There's usually something crazy you've dealt with by that point, and those extra transfuses can be a lifesaver. And this is going to be really nice. So that, combined with you just having a few more drones, maybe a few more queens and zerglings as well, because of cutting the upgrades, should make like your whole early game getting in control of everything just like easier. And it gives you a little bit more room for error, which obviously as a high-level player, you don't want to be giving yourself too much room for error. But you still want to give yourself...
But I'm playing Zerg, so obviously.
Exactly. I mean, you're Zerg. You don't want to micro, so... like.
That's actually true. I don't want to micro. I always... the less I do... Of course, transfuses aren't that difficult. So I think it's good to recap the early game stuff. What do we got so far?
Okay, so one more point before I forget it, because I was getting excited, and then I was thinking about queens, and then I forgot to mention overlords.
Oh, I get excited thinking about queens as well. We have that in common.
They're tall. They got that big carapace chest. They throw knitting needles at their opponents. Like, what is there not to get excited about?
Oh, in that range.
These ain't no early Wings of Liberty queens, that's for sure. They ain't no two range girls.
Remember the 5 Rax Reaper builds?
Oh my god. Back when queens literally required the enemy to walk up to them so that they could actually fight.
Alright, you had one more point.
Overlords. Alright. I love the overlords where you've got them. Here, right? Bam and bam. These 2 overlords, winners, right? That second one that tries to go in for the sacrifice around 3:30, first one out front. I've actually been using this piece of high ground on this map, but you can't really see the full entrance. So sometimes
you can see the
gases,
and usually they make their third down there, so.
It's true. I think there's like they're both good though. Your one, you're gonna see everything move out. Both
Yeah, that's the
paths,
idea.
right?
Because I'm pretty.
I think
I know one of my
50-50,
big
both are good.
weaknesses is like just having a zergling sitting in the positions a zergling should be in. I'm really lazy on that, so I make up for it a little bit with the overlord placements. Just having something to see something moving across the map. But of course,
Exactly.
I should get better on having a zergling out there to see things moving out. But that's the thought process, at least.
What's really cool, and I think that's a totally fine process though. Like obviously having zerglings is good, but if you can have a spotting overlord on a little pervert pillar there, that's beautiful. He sees everything.
Original name for it.
Yeah, just watching from the shadows, dude. Nothing to see here. Just a creepy overlord there, and they wear trench coats. I don't know if you knew that. That's
Obviously.
actually what we need: a trench coat skin for the overlord, and like some dark sunglasses.
I think that's in the Carbot mod.
Indeed. All right, so these other overlords, right? These are like great positions for later on in the game, like especially against mech for spotting Hellion run-bys. But if he opens up a fast Viking, ooh, Viking food, and not just that, but this it restricts your vision of Hellions around your bases because you're not quite spotting around your bases. So against Hellions and same against Protoss, I would always want these overlords that you've got here. I would want those to be bam, bam, bam.
If only that we could ping more than one ping. The technology isn't there yet.
All right, you see those 3 pings, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, bam, bam, bam. Good. So that'll give you vision of the Hellions, which you've been relying on your creep spread for. Like your extra creep spread has been giving you sick warning, but it's been coming at the cost of transfuse. So your overlords should help plug that gap. You're saving more energy for transfuse, but your overlords will give you more vision. That's going to tell you if the depths or Hellions are coming in, right? That's like something you apply across both matchups. You probably already do against Protoss, since we all hate losing 10 drones to 2 adepts.
For some reason, I respect Phoenixes more than Vikings. I'm not sure why. But I definitely play... the Overlords are definitely closer to the chest in ZVP.
Yeah. And then I guess from there, you tend to probably put them along the edges after this point as well. Later this game, I'm sure we'll see you probably... assuming the pressure's off you at some point, you'll find the...
I usually get them pretty well spread.
Yeah, that'll be sweet. So I think generally here, this was a pretty decent hold. One thing that was lacking from your defense, I mean, a spine crawler is always great, of course, against Cyclones and Hellbats, even though Cyclones...
I just didn't know what was
armored.
coming, so I didn't want to...
Exactly.
I get greedy, I don't commit to a spine, because I think maybe Hellions, maybe I'll have Hellbats, but I have Banelings. I didn't expect the clones, but...
I think, did you morph the rest of your Zerglings into Banelings? What happens with your Zerglings in this fight?
I think they kind of just die doing nothing,
so,
or they don't do anything.
Yeah.
They're just kind of...
If you had like 30 Zerglings, you would want to try to wrap those around from behind your mineral line, right? Like if you came shift click them behind your mineral line and then down from the top, that would have been really sexy. Because if you can wrap up those Cyclones, then that would have been really nice. Since you cleared those Hellbats really well, it just kind of... It's one of these things, if you just had a little bit more damage here, like Cyclones don't do that much, just Queens do no damage either. So it's like, yeah, I can tank a lot of your damage, but I'm not dealing any. So this is pretty dicey. But yeah, hang on. So you stabilize here, but you get stuck in this trap of just making more Lings and Banes, right? And this is like the Ling Bane trap, like if you're not building roaches. And it's the same against Protoss, and I guess this is more for your viewers and my viewers more than you. But everyone wants to go Ling Bane Hydra, right? It's like the Zerg fetish at the moment. You know, we're all a little bit naughty. We all want to rush up to those Hydralisks without building much defense.
I'll admit
and the problem is, yeah, I mean, I do it as well. And the thing is, if they go to 8 gate adept, right? Put down a Roach Warren. Just do it. If they go to
I've been hearing
reactor,
Tastosis getting all excited about that. It's like, oh my god, he's building the Roach one. What a safe, pragmatic Zerg, kind of. But
I felt really bad for Sort of. Did you watch those games?
I did, such as they were.
It was just kind of sad because like that obviously is like, yeah, you probably should have gone Roaches each in the second and third game, but I feel especially bad because that was like highlighted so much by the commentary, and I think it's spot on. But now all I see is like Twitch chat just being like, Sort of, why didn't you build Roaches? And I'm like, oh man, I don't envy him whenever he's in a Twitch chat anytime and his name comes up. Everyone's just gonna be like, that guy doesn't know how to build Roaches or something. And I'm like,
he's sort of terrible, alright?
It was a valid strategic choice. It was Oracle into Phoenix, or Phoenix into Oracle. Like, come on, you want to... In that case, I get him trying to skip the Roaches and go Ling Bane. He was just slightly late on his Banelings every game, but nonetheless, from this point, you're looking pretty good because you're getting a bit of defecation going on, man. I love that move. Bit of poo.
Oh yeah. And I mean, this is the point where. So I've gotten to the point, even though, and obviously we weren't talking about this game, we were talking about in general what I should do for defense. So I'm in a good, I'm in a comfortable spot as a Zerg right now, right? 4 bases. I'm pumping out, well, not that many drones. I don't know why I'm making 7 Hydras here.
That's definitely okay. So I guess you're in a. You might. I mean, you.
I was a little bit scared he pushes again, and I didn't have bane speed.
Cyclones, right? You saw he was still building cyclones, so I think your fright. This wasn't like an irrational fear, right? This was like this guy is not building late game units, so I should be afraid. I agree. You should probably have squeezed another round of drones, but I kind of like that you put yourself in this mindset of like, look, I'm denying your third. You're only on 2 bases right now. I've got a 4th on the way. I don't really have a lot of drones right now, but I'm going to kind of build some units first to make sure I'm safe. So I actually think that was an okay decision there. In any other situation, right, where they're not just building Cyclones and Hellions nonstop, I would be like, why aren't you droning? But here I'm like, yeah, that's totally legit. I can understand you being afraid after the way this early game's gone. Nice interception. Oh.
Yeah, I got the creep now.
Oh, yeah.
For the next few minutes, it's all just me shutting down everything, is the summary.
There we go. Okay, you did it. Good. I was signaling there. I was like, those guys were just sitting there. I was like, come on, get them on the high ground. That's always the most annoying point. To
remember when we couldn't build creep tumors on ramps?
Oh, don't remind me. Oh, my God. The amount of APM you had to spend to get your creep up a ramp was just ridiculous. You'd have to place it just at the bottom on the edge, get a spotter unit, and then place it just on the top. You're like, oh. And if you misplaced it a little, you couldn't reach.
So what we're saying now is queens are amazing.
Pretty much. Queen's good unit.
So here's my token swarm host I make, because I know you're supposed to make swarm hosts against mech, so I make 4.
4?
And then I was supply blocked when I started them, I think, is what happened, but
4?
This is my admission, like, yeah, swarm hosts are supposed to be the choice, right? Like,
to be fair, most players are playing Hydrabane just into Vipers and Broodlords, or Ultras.
Which probably is easier most of the time.
It's weird because it's terribly cost inefficient as well. So it's like, it kind of relies on you catching your opponent out, in my opinion. I feel like Swarmos are just the most godlike unit with this combination, but it is high level to use. So I used to.
You're talking to me, remember?
Swarmos.
So.
I don't know, man. You're a lot higher level than most of the players that I do coach. So I'm like,
But my big struggle is with, I'm pretty good on the, I guess, strategic choices, but the tactical choices are, I start getting into like, how do I micro these swarm hosts, and then suddenly my half my army is gone, and Hellions are my 4th base.
You F2 like a boss, don't you? I'm looking at your control groups right now. You're a big F2 user.
Not actually. I've gotten pretty good, especially because I know against mech, because that's the way I play mech, is there's always things on different parts of the map, right? Yeah. So I just avoid control groups in general until I'm doing a real fight. I do hit F2 sometimes, and I definitely hit it here, well, when I start to panic, but I have like Wings and Banes at the 3rd, and some units on the left side, and then Hydras at the front. I usually hotkey the main army.
That's interesting. Do you use control group stealing by any chance?
I don't. I still haven't picked that up. I spent,
That's cool.
Before Legacy, there were 5 years of no control group stealing. I'm old now. I can't be expected to learn new things, okay? Like, though I hear from everyone it's good, and I need to just force myself to do it. I still use like shift clicking off and stuff, but
yeah, I mean, you're doing a good middle ground, like you're doing it in a smart way with the mechanics you're using. For me, I was the same. I was like, this mechanic's going to be amazing. I'm going to use this. And then I just like couldn't use it. I just couldn't remember to use it. And I was like, and I can't be bothered putting the time into learning it. So I just overrode all of my regular create and add commands. And now every time I create or add a unit to a squad, it's stealing it. That was my way to learn it, was let's use the exact same keys I was always using. And the only downside is if I accidentally control group something, like my hatcheries, then I'm stealing them off their actual control group. So if I'm really sloppy with my control groups, I might make a few mess ups, which almost never happens anymore. And the other one is that I can't have a unit existing on 2 control groups. So you know how like sometimes you might have Ling Bane, but then you've also got the Banelings on like number 2? Do you ever do that?
Yeah. Well, I try to with the control click and stuff.
I just control click it. Yeah, like I don't actually put them on a separate control group because I can't.
This is the part. This is the part where I'm like, wow, that sounds like a great idea. I should do that, and then I don't do it. Like,
yeah, I ain't gonna try and force it. Like I said, that's something where like it's the easiest way to learn it, which is why I advocate it if you want to learn it. But it's still a big change up, so something not to be taken lightly. But for now, you look like you're doing okay here.
Well,
so you went straight to
in those
Vipers.
last fights, if I had just attacked from 2 sides instead of 1 side, I think I would have just crushed the army. And there's the F2. You see the swarm host want to join the party. Like,
I like that. That was some great swarm host movement there.
just those were scouting swarm hosts. Okay. So I definitely had the army, and I feel like I had 4 Vipers with nearly full energy, but I just somehow didn't really do enough.
Let's take a look at it one more time. Let's go back to kind of the lead up to this fight and really process what's going on here. So he did a really good job of kind of pushing your creep back here and preparing for this push, which was very nicely done by him. And okay, so let's... Blue Flame, yep, he's just making sure you can't replace that creep, and he's like, it's time, let's go. And I don't know if he scanned. Did he scan? Where's your hive? It's on your natural. No, he has no idea what your hive timing is. Okay, he's just like, I've just got to go before you get into those.
He's got +2 and maxed out, so it's time to go, right?
Yeah. It's just he's not building Vikings, so let's check his production actually. Wait a second, has he only got? Oh no, he's got. Okay, he's got 3 reactors. Oh, he's one of these. Okay. One of these
he never quite got away from the Cyclone Hellbat.
Yeah, he's like, I gotta keep pushing because I don't even have a starport. He really should be building 2 starports right now. Fighting this without Vikings is terrible. So, yeah, this was an appalling engage from you, as you already called out.
But I have blinding clouds. I should win everything.
This is exactly, I was coaching someone this morning. He's obviously lower level than you, but he was a diamond player, and it was like the exact same thing. It's like, I have full energy Vipers, let's go. And I've made this mistake like 400 times before, right? There's that where you're like, oh, I can put green gas down. And it's like, wait a second, those are zerglings, not banelings. We need to morph those. Wait a second. There's like, where are our hydras? Half of them are still rallying over here. What have we actually got in the fight? 12 Hydralisks and a bunch of Zerglings that are going to get one shot by Hellbats. It's like, oh, this is actually a point where your army is really weak. And I'm kind of looking around going, where's your army supply? You have 65 Zerglings. You have 7 Queens, 4 Vipers, 19 Hydras. Yeah, you really need to get your army together before you take this fight. And this happens even more so with me because I play Swarm Hosts. So I end up with like 12 Hydras,
You're
20
doing all
Banelings.
this sick harass, and then suddenly they just kill you?
That's how it used to happen. Now I'm used to it, and now I group up. My Swarm Host flank from behind. I land the perfect blinding clouds. My Hydra Bane engages from the front, and it looks beautiful.
You just win everything.
We're gonna forget the time when I would. Oh, they pushed and I just died. We're gonna pretend that doesn't happen anymore. Okay? Okay. But yeah, if you had Banelings there, if you just pulled back and flanked from 2 sides, you got that. So the big thing I was emphasizing with my student this morning, and this is a game where you were reasonably comfortable, right? But if you were behind, this would have been game over. Absolutely, right? Taking a fight like that. So I think being willing to give up bases is like one of the best things.
I realized after the fight, I'm like, I don't even need this base. Like, I don't...
Yeah,
but
you can just move
this is the hill I wanted to die on, okay?
This is my hill. I want to fight off creep through a choke point from one direction. I want to break every Zerg rule about engagements all at once.
That's the thing, like, if I was behind, I think I might have been able to take a better fight, because I'm like, well, I need to give up this base. I've been behind for so long, but then you get a little bit ahead, it's like, psh, whatever, all right, I can make whatever. And it wasn't the end of the world, and, I mean, he doesn't kill me, obviously, but...
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess there's no easy tip to say don't take stupid fights, really. Like,
it's just always, when in doubt, give up the base is my rule. If I look at a mech army and I'm like, maybe, I go, nope. Maybe means no. If I look at it and go, yes, I can fight that. That's when I go for it, and I still set it up perfectly. Like, I always just have this rule after being traumatized by taking so many bad fights into mech armies, where I'm like, I wait for that flank. I wait, and then I have a pre-spread Hydra Bane. on the left. Pre-spread, Hydra Bane on the right. Vipers coming in through the middle. Blinding Clouds perfectly synced up with the army coming in from two sides. You know what? I lost 10 workers in a hatchery because I didn't fight beforehand. Maybe I could have. But when I fight, it's going to be damn well cost efficient. So that's like, that's the sort of rule I give myself.
That's a good, just general rule. Maybe means no. All right.
Yep.
Just to sum it up.
We can apply that one to a lot of areas in life. If you're not sure, just wait until you're a little bit more sure. And all right, so you win this game from here, you said, I believe.
Yeah, I did get to Broodlords, but if he had like, there were so many opportunities to lose, is what I'm saying. Like this guy was several hundred MMR below me, but this is standard for me with ZVT. It's like, I'm going to pick up 10 points from this game, but I'm struggling here. Like, if the Broodlords were another minute later, then that's all my tech gone, probably.
Yeah, so. Like if 6 Hellions ran down the right-hand side right now and a Liberator, like, sieged up on the edge of your main, you're going to lose, like, 20 workers.
Yeah, I know, right? I don't like it.
Shoved back.
I don't like it for Coach when people give replays they win, but I think we're at the level, it's like, there's still plenty of mistakes to point out no matter who wins the game.
No, I mean, this is a recent game, which is fresh in your memory, and I think that's more important because you can kind of like remember the decision making and the moments really fresh in your mind, and that's always like awesome. Yeah, like we could even after this like get you to play a few games, or we could look at a bio replay.
I have a good one of that as well.
I think we've covered the most key points. I'll write down a few key points here about the engagements, but I think this one's pretty much in the bag. Just chuck it on your camera while we finish it up. So engagements, when in doubt, give up the base. Always flank. Yeah. Wait for your army. Just because you have Viper energy doesn't mean you can go. And that's one we all fall for sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, the Viper's are ready. That's all that matters. And I push in. I take this terrible fight. I go, what just happened? And I load up the replay and it's like, well, you're at 160 supply. Like, you just didn't even finish maxing because you just forgot about everything except I have Vipers now. And I'm like, oh, I'm such an idiot. So just, yeah, that's like a tunnel vision. I think some of us get a bit too obsessed with the Vipers. Honestly, I think Swarm Hosts are incredible. And with your preponderance towards creep spread, it would be amazing if you do try Swarm Hosts. So something to try, give your viewers some variety and maybe work on, which I think would work really well with your style. Something to try is 14 to 18 Swarm Hosts. After your initial 12 like 10 to 12 Hydras, basically. So you get like 10 Hydras so you can stop like a double Thor drop, right? That's something where you can just run in and snipe medevacs. If you go straight to the Swarm Host and you've only got a few Ling Bane and your Swarm Host, like, pressure can get a little bit nasty. Once you get 10 Hydras, you're like, okay, I'm stable against pressure, and then you can just make a ton of Swarm Hosts. And basically, your rule with Swarm Hosts, you know what? Let's hop out of here because I think you're about to go finish him, right?
Yeah.
Not much to see. All right, we can very quickly talk about Swarm Hosts. So I can show you one of my replays actually.
Sure.
Guys in chat, did I play a mech game today? I'm pretty sure I played a few Zerg versus mech games. Oh, here we go. There's one where I think I got ahead, but we can still kind of look at the pattern of how the Swarm Hosts got used. I used to have like I have a ton of epic comebacks with the Swarm Host Hydra Viper style because
I've been on the other side of that too many times.
if you just don't fight as the Zerg, the Terran's like, I got a base, you got to fight me. And you just like give up the base, move the drones away. Throw locusts, spread them on all the siege tanks away from the Hellbats. There we go. That's dead 6 siege tanks for free. Okay? Terran pushes another 2 of your bases. Just give them up, all the drones away, and just keep picking away at his army.
Anyone's really figured out the biggest, I guess not issue with the Swarm Host, but when they automatically swoop on like one SCV, you just have to be there's no way to fix that, right? That you just have to be out of range in order to micro the Locust as they go.
When you first launch it, yeah. Like if there's like one Hellion on you, you need to just throw Locusts off one Swarm Host, kill the one Hellion, and then throw them. So definitely that can be really annoying. Like if they get like a Thor drop, for instance, like, and they just like drop it on your Swarm Hosts, they will all land. But that's why obviously you can just micro it as quickly as possible. So as long as they're not right on top
immediately,
and then just click them forwards, and then you just kind of box swoop onto separate siege tanks. Like that micro is what turns swarm hosts from being kind of useless to the most OP thing in the world. Is if you micro those locusts, it's so crazy.
Yeah, I think it was actually Vibe who I played. I killed all but 2 of his bases and was up 4 bases to 2. And 20 minutes later, I was on the other side. He had about 20 swarm hosts. And maybe a couple Vipers.
Neuro did that to me once, and I was like, "You're kidding me."
It doesn't feel like it should be doing it until it doesn't. Also, I'm actually pretty sure I played this guy and he did a very similar build. Because I'm remembering someone did a ghost build to me, and I'm pretty sure it was this guy. How do you feel about this build he's been doing?
One base. I've actually been doing one base ghost hellbat the last few days. I killed Vibe with it. I almost killed Kane. It's a real thing. Funny just because people just don't know how to adapt to it. It's like it's not actually that hard to stop. I'm gonna give away the secret now to all of our combined viewers. All right, here's the trick, guys. Don't build roaches or queens because they get one shot by snipe.
Well, technically the queen is left with 5 HP, I believe.
Yeah, 5 HP. So if you're the sniping player, make sure you shoot the queen before you snipe it with a Hellion or a ghost.
Yeah, you got to double tap.
Yeah. But basically, the ghosts are just amazing for killing roaches and queens. Because like even here, we look at this bush. If there's like 7 roaches or something, or 7 roaches and ravages, like even this tiny little shitty army on the left can just be like, well, snipe, 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 and all the roaches and queens just disappear. So personally, spines are just the most incredible thing because you can keep your queens behind them. Obviously, spores for detection as a zerg. And then you just kind of use transfuse as zerglings, banelings, and just don't get upgrades and just stay low tech until they actually show they're going for like 3rd command centers and stuff. I actually had a lot of trouble this game to get this cute hellbat elevator into the main. But you can see like how paranoid I was this game. I was just like, ugh, don't make many upgrades. Just be careful on the drones. Like I didn't really get much ahead in the workers.
Hey, you didn't even get layer techs.
Yeah, man. Oh no, I got layer. Eventually.
Yeah. I'm saying like right off the bat when your layer finished. You were still scared of whatever was coming out.
Oh yeah. I was just like, no, this is just for overseers, man.
Did he kill your overlords on the map, or I think he did. He has a Viking that has.
Yeah.
Well.
So I have a special pattern. I think with the sacrifice one scouted, but I have this. This is my pervert spot on this map. It's a bit of like a meta spot, where like normally they won't see it moving past, but you'll see all the Hellions, Cyclones, Reapers go back and forth. So it's like, it's a bit of a gamble because obviously they can just kill it if they see it, but I like it. And then my second overlord scouted and saw what was going on. But anyway, I wanted to just show you the later stages of this game because I'm pretty sure I ended up with Hydrabane Swarmhost, and even though he wasn't in the most ideal position, we can just kind of...
You can't really attack in on Abyssal Reef on the ground. Yeah. So I've had that feeling before. It's like, I can probably do it. Nope, don't do it.
Choke points, caverns, man. Abyssal Reef, choke points, reef. I mean, but yeah, let's just get to that point. Getting up the 4th there because I was just a bit paranoid, waiting for more Banes. Just playing super overly careful this game, so I actually kind of let him get back into a pretty good position, but his production's still pretty slow. So he's only on 5 factories, which obviously sucks. So, alright, let's keep 8 timesing this. Sorry for making everyone dizzy on the stream. Here we go. So, basically, you'll notice I got out like a small pack of Hydras with my Ling Bane. I had a ton of Speed Banes because of the Ghost Hellbat threat. So I kind of just went straight to Swarmhost a little bit earlier than normal because I was like, okay, Swarmhosts are incredible versus Liberators and Ghosts, by the way. That's actually like another thing. Ghost Liberators, I really wish... I felt like if Scarlet built some Swarmhosts in that Neon Violet game, I think she could have killed it. She could have done really well.
Yeah, I was kind of confused that game. It's like, all right, so we're having a standoff, and then she just attacks, which I didn't think would work, and then it worked, but then ghosts happened. That was such a weird game.
Yep.
It was a great game.
She didn't have enough bank, you know? He had so much bank, so it kind of worked out for Eli there. She was banking on the bigger army supply, and it almost worked. Like, it was so close to working.
I thought she had it.
150, 160 army supply. Like, she was very close to sealing the deal, but I would have kind of preferred her to just say, yeah, let's have 20 Swarmhosts. Like, I think Ghost Lib, like, that army she's facing, you can pick off so many units. She had creep all over the map, and I feel like Swarmhost is just such a great way, because it also enables your spellcasters. So we see that this was just a very
I don't know if
small
I've ever
locust
seen
wave.
Scarlet use Swarm Host more recently. Just in general.
So, just for the people watching on stream, I've already control clicked the locust and told them to move forward, and then I'm just boxing sections of them and using the swoop hotkey and just clicking on the siege tanks away from the hellbats. The hellbats will normally be in a clump at the front, and your opponent, if you just A move, wants you to just A move, because those locusts are just going to go into the hellbats. They're going to get roasted. They're just going to do nothing, right? They'll kill one hellbat. But if we split up, even though this is a relatively small locust wave, we got 2 ghosts on the right, and look at this tank splash. 3 siege tanks on the left. And even if you just kill a couple siege tanks, you know, it's usually quite good. But if he ever pushes in deeper, I will just flank with the swarm host is kind of the pattern I will go for here. So 16 or 18 swarm host is like my magic count. And I should have Vipers out at this point. But because there were so many ghosts, I went Infestors instead.
Let's turn it around. As a Terran, what do you think would be the best thing to do in this position? I've heard people say Thors just to shoot the locusts down before they get there.
I don't think that really works that well, because the swarm host can.
It looks like that's what he's
going
to try to do at this point. He's making the Thors.
Yeah.
So
what
do you think?
This is the most broken composition. I think if you play this like
the
way
just
Rogue plays this, I do think it's unbeatable. In Zerg vs Terran, unless the Terran can get up battle cruisers and start Yamatoing units, because that's where they get a lot of.
And that's
free
not
damage
he's
as
not
well.
joking, guys. That's actually a serious response. Like,
I'm talking like six or 7 battle cruisers. I'm talking a very low SCV count as well. I think as a Terran, you need to get your SCVs down to like 20, 30. Mostly be relying on mules for mining. And that's obviously very hard to make that transition. Like, we talk about late game Terran, but how often do you see end game Terran, where they've actually got like a mule economy, battle cruisers, like all of that stuff? It's pretty rare. But that's my view, and that's, keep in mind, if this is microed correctly. I don't think anyone, even most pro gamers, micro this correctly. Everyone in EU doesn't even build swarm hosts because they've decided they're bad, which I think is utter crap. I don't know.
We
maybe
here in the Americas, okay, are more enlightened.
Yeah, I mean, me and Winter are a lot better than people in Codas. So I think realistically, they should be copying their builds from this stream, because this is the height of the meta.
I give replay packs out to subs if you Codas players out there need them. Somebody get in contact with Innovation.
I mean, I coached Jadong into retirement, so come on, guys. If you need some strategy learning, this is
it's
where
like, just
we go.
quit this game, go take up modeling or something. Now you pretty much lock this game down now as well.
Yeah. So obviously he doesn't have much, but basically there's like this pattern, right, where it's just focus on creep spread, and you just rotate with your locusts. Whenever they're not attacking you, you just keep hitting. And whenever they do push you, I always send my swarm host to flank from one side and my Hydra Bane with a big free spread on the other side. So let's see if there's any engagements that show that. He does a really good job of hanging on here, but... And then obviously you get Vipers to start picking off air units. But yeah, I'm just kind of throwing in locusts, yada yada. Let's find a good push. Okay, so this is where we're going to see, you know, what I think a perfect engagement on this army. So like I said, swarm hosts are just throwing locusts on a base, rotating to the other side, throwing locusts on a base. Oh, you're going to push me? Sweet. Pull back my Hydras. I should have Banelings in here. I don't in this particular engagement, just because I kind of screwed up. It's always a mistake to not have Banelings in there, because they're very supply efficient, right? And then you basically engage. Hydras come in from one side, your Vipers drop a Binding Cloud at the exact same time, and you sync that up with your Locusts landing on the rear or the flank of their army, and you can wipe out a maxed out Terran mech army. And what are they? I'm building 6 Hydras and I'm still maxed, which means I lost a casual 12 supply in that fight, and I just killed about 100 supply of mech. So that's like the pattern for dealing with these mech pushes. And some of the guys who watch my stream a lot have seen me and Top have a lot of epic games where he gets way ahead because his early game is incredible and my early game defense can be a little bit poor. And then I come back just through a series of these sort of engagements. And often I'm down 50, 60 supply for minutes at a time, but these locusts just keep getting value. If there were more siege tanks here, there'd be a lot more locust micro. I'd be individually, you know, telling them to swoop down on spread out siege tanks. But in this case where it's Thors, you literally just A-move them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, he left all his Hellbats in the front as well. So.
Yeah, very sloppy from him there. You've got to keep those Hellbats like on the angle where the Swarmo is going to come from. So I said, yes, I think it's broken if the Zerg plays it perfectly, but what do you need to do? To bring it back to that question, as the Terran, spread your Hellbats in amongst your tanks. Make sure you keep them away from the Hydras and Banes and more towards your the other fighting units. One thing I was doing for a while as Terran is actually keeping my Hellions all in Hellion form rather than Hellbat form. And I would like just be running forward and like kiting the Banelings and the Hydras. And if I ever found like just 5 or 10 Hydras on their own, my 30 Hellions would just run on them, one-shot them. Oh, the Swarm hosts are over there, run over and start shooting the Swarm hosts. And then the Swarm is like, oh god, we don't actually have enough Banelings and Hydras defending us right now. We can't throw our Locusts, so they're just going to land on these Hellions and like use kind of the mobility of their Hellions to just make it really awkward for the Zerg to set up this very fancy engagement. Because what's the weakness of this, right? The weakness is the Zerg doesn't actually have that much army supply. I've basically got 20 Hydras, and that's it. 15 Banelings. Like, that's actually not a large army. 40 Hellions destroys this. So I'm very reliant on the Swarm hosts. The Banelings are there to kind of protect the Hydras from Hellions jumping on them, to clear Hellbats. The Hydras are obviously anti-air, they add in that range damage. And the Locusts are there to do a lot of the damage and get the efficiency over time. But because you spend so much supply on those Swarm hosts, definitely mass Hellion switches can do really well versus this. And whenever I see someone going Hydra Bane, one of my favorite ways to play is pure Hellion. I cheese people a lot on my Star-Lord account. I was playing it just before. And a build I did for 2 weeks straight was double reactor non-stop Hellions.
The Korean barbecue build.
Exactly. I would never expand. It was so disgusting, man. Like, it was so dumb. I'd be on 10 factory reactors. I'd eventually get
because nobody makes roaches?
No one would make roaches for like 2 weeks, and they started making roaches after I was like, guys, I'm beating 6.5k Terrans. Zergs, I mean. I'm like, you've got to actually build some roaches. I beat like TLO, I was beating Jim Rising and stuff. I'm like, guys, just build a few roaches. And it was so stubborn.
We've all decided if there is a bad unit.
It took them so long.
If there is a bad unit, I think everybody's agreed on the roach. All right, not the Swarm host, the roach.
It has its role, my man. It has its role. If your opponent builds nothing but Hellions for 20 minutes and you don't build roaches, guess what? You've made a fundamental error. So yeah, I basically would just win games with pure Hellion for like weeks on end, and it was beautiful and silly. So big Hellion swaps definitely can do very well versus like Hydra Bane heavy compositions that don't have, say, Ultralisks in there. One problem if you go mass Hellion I would encounter is if I let them live long enough, no matter how far I was ahead, if they build 2 Ultralisks with 3/3 and chitinous plating, it doesn't matter how many Hellions you have. 60 Hellions doesn't beat 2 Ultralisks, even with micro. You're doing 1 damage a shot and you're like, ooh, this is not going so well.
We'll get those new Widow Mines out, all right?
Okay, yeah, I don't know.
It's been taking a while to kill a Terran on Abyssal Reef is the summary, right?
Summary of this game, yeah. I mean, we're just talking about other random shit while we watch that, but there we go. He was finally dead. Do you want to show us that bio replay?
Sure. It's a little longer, so we can speed through. Let me.
Yeah, I'll let you steer.
Find it here.
This one you can control, so we're taking turns.
This was.
Kind of steering.
Let's see if I find it. I have a lot of replays.
We should also take questions from chat, I think, while we're getting this replay set up. So if you don't mind, I'm just going to do a couple of very, very quick.
And I'll pass on any questions that come from my chat as well.
Yeah, let's both like answer the questions together, because obviously you're
teamwork is key.
Teamwork, my dude, of course. So, Pavella, thank you so much for the 10-month resub, and hi, my name is David. Thank you so much for gifting that sub to Silver Lancer. Appreciate that. I'm looking up through, seeing if there's any good questions. All right, looking through for any relevant questions to do with Zerg vs Terran, guys. Preferably no questions that are like, hey, how do I beat Protoss as Terran? We'll try to keep it focused on this matchup for now, whichever side you're asking the questions from. And yeah.
I guess just Zerg and maybe Terran questions in general wouldn't be too bad.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the Protoss have to go sit at the back of the bus. I mean, they don't really belong. Like, yeah, that, you know, we'll let them fight in our wars, and you know, they can win championships for us in sport and stuff. But yeah, don't really want to answer their questions right now.
Can you use Swarm hosts effectively against Protoss? If yes, how and what Protoss composition? I would say you could use them against like Immortal Archon Charge Lot to an extent, but they're probably not the best option.
What was the composition, sorry?
Just using Swarm Host against Protoss.
Oh yeah. I think it's weird, isn't it? Like, it's funny because Swarm Hosts are really good versus Protoss pre-patch, but they're so immobile now off creep, right? So there's two things which counter them, right? One is a Void Ray or some Oracles kind of hunting them down on the map, and the other one is a Warp Prism. I did like a little a What If Wednesdays show, which I will be bringing back at some point. I haven't done it in forever. Basically, I just get two pros to play, and the loser would resume from replay, right? And they basically say, I'm going to resume from this point, I'm going to change stuff. And the rule was the winner had to play the same build and could only react as they saw things. So basically, we'd have like, okay, this guy loses, he changes something, usually wins the next game because the other guy has to stay on the same playstyle. So it was like kind of like getting pros to show us how to counter builds and stuff. And I did one where a laser was going Swarm Host versus Drogo on Ascension to Aya. And we kept resuming, and we were kind of discussing how like he kept trying to Archon drop on top of the Swarm Host to make like, you know, the Locusts land on them and stuff, as well as to kill the actual Swarm Hosts. And it would take so long and so much APM and micro to kill a Swarm Host because they used to be so fast. And like we were actually seriously having a long discussion, me, Laser, and Drogo, like, is it worth just putting two Immortals in a Warp Prism just to hunt down those Swarm Hosts? Is that like the only way to stop this? And then now the Swarm Host is like crippled. It's like what, half the movement speed or something off creep? So it's like, oh, if you don't have creep on the other side of the map, the Swarm Host is pretty tricky to use against Protoss these days.
So the summary is, it's not usually the ideal choice. It's usually better like Hydraling Bane and a Broodlords or something like that. Against Protoss.
Hells to the yeah. Oh,
okay, we're getting into it a little here. I deflected a little bit of Hellion Hellbat early on to get to this point, and I'm down. I didn't even realize I was down 40 supply. Yeah, it was dicey.
And this is one of those, and this is so typical when you fall behind early game, bit of momentum, right? This matchup.
Yeah.
And Baneling speed finishes after the 30 Banelings had to engage. You're like, God damn it, Bane speed.
Mork's got a question. When making Swarm Hosts, I struggle with getting up to a critical mass. A lot of times I find I have like 6 Swarm Hosts before they start pushing. I never feel I can get to that right number. How do you safely transition to it? You're the person who makes more than 6 Swarm Hosts. I still have struggles doing that myself, so...
I mean, to some extent, there's always like, if you're behind early, obviously, like you won't really get the window to do it, right? Because you're just too far behind. So like, as always, there's like, the answer to the question sometimes is to go back and re-examine your early game, and maybe there's something that's going wrong there. But otherwise, it's kind of like just the formula for me is like, okay, you're defending either with Roaches early or Lingbane Queen. I do think Roaches is easier for most players against mech, but it all comes down to preference. And then you basically, as soon as your Hydra tech's up, off about 3 base saturation, I like to try and build like 10, 12 Hydras as quickly as possible because of the Thor drop meta that happens at high level, right? For me, that's my safe count. It's like, I get 10 to 12 Hydras and then I feel safe, and then I start just massing up Swarmos. But if they're pushing me aggressively, I might start building more Hydras, but usually I'll just keep building Swarm Hosts. And part of that is, even if they do a very fast push I'm not ready for, because I take extra expansions and I always expand down both sides of the map, I'm always prepared for giving up a base. If I'm like, I'm not ready to fight, I just give up the base. I just pull the drones to the other side, and I say it's fine, because Swarm Hosts for me is like having an extra base. If I have like 15 Swarm Hosts up, I can be down, like even on bases or even down a base against a mech player, because over time, they're going to kill so many units for free. So for me, that's like a confidence thing that allows me to go Swarm Hosts even when I'm behind or on the back foot. But some players prefer to kind of just stay Hydra Bane if they're not comfortable, if they're under pressure.
You're not saying that Swarm Hosts are always the unit you have to go for. They're just a good choice, especially if you're in a comfortable position. You shouldn't feel forced to make Swarm Host if you're about to lose like a key base or something like that.
Exactly.
All right, and I want to
thank you so much for all the gifted subs, David. Really appreciate that. I'll call them all out in a few minutes. All right.
And thank you to Top for the host as well. Hopefully you had a good stream. I saw he was doing a Learn StarCraft stream as well. So passing it on. Thank you very much.
He basically beat me in an
sexy
early
boy.
Game this morning, and then he decided to mass Viking to try to finish me off, and he still almost killed me. And I was like, well, that was almost very embarrassing. I'm like, he's clearly doing viewer builds right now. Good guy, Top.
Thank you, Top. And now, to this game, we've kind of gotten to that point in ZVT where it's like, how do I live? Because
You got good creep?
the creep was good. I got to a drone count, but I still don't, like, you can look at the supply and the upgrades, and it's still kind of dicey here. So I actually hold on pretty well, but are there any things that stick out at you that should be being done? Like, I'm trying to do little lane counterattacks and baneling run-bys and stuff like that. Try to find an option, but...
With the way you're playing this, I feel like you're very Hydra-focused. I personally love Hydra-focused. I don't play Hydra Bane anymore, but when I did, I played it more Stefano style, where I would love infestors with it. Like, you know, if you, not a lot, but I'd try to squeeze in 2 infestors the moment my infestation was done, even without, like, pathogen glands. Just because I knew that, like, if I could catch him with just, like, 1 good fungal and a Hydra concave, I could turn around an epic supply deficit, right? And because I play very Hydra-focused as well, that's more powerful, right? Whereas if you play more Ling Bane-focused with just some Hydras to support, it works well with that. And that's kind of what you're doing here. Like, yeah, you got a good Bane count.
I definitely struggle with the spellcasters. Like, I just always just seem to make a few more Hydras instead of, like, I could have made a couple Infestors, but now I have a Hive done, right? So, obviously I have an Infestation.
Like, maybe skip the Infestors, but just go range instead of melee? Because I feel like Baneling is kind of going to do the job anyway. Like, Carapace is more important for them. What do you reckon of ranged upgrades? Yeah.
I don't know why I don't get it. I just always see pro players going for the melee upgrades, and I get it for the Baneling connections because Medivacs are so good and all of that. But I guess if I make this many, like, what am I at? I'm at 20 Hydras, and I probably had 30 at one point. Probably should get a ranged upgrade, right?
Yeah, I reckon maybe 1/1 melee Carapace and then swap into ranged until you get like +2 ranged, and then you can add the +3 melee later on for the ultras. Because like ultras don't really care, right? They can have +1, they can have +2 melee as long as they got their armor upgrades. They are good to go. They're really good to go. So I personally think that's really nice because the scary point with Hydras isn't when your ultras are out for me. For me, it's like surviving this kind of big 2-factory tank push stage and keeping your creep out there, right? Which is always the tipping point in Zerg vs Terran. Your creep's doing good here, so I definitely think you could have hung on here and done pretty decently, but I think those range upgrades plus just good Hydra concave management, like it makes such a big difference. So I think that would have been really cool. Quick question from Frey Guy. Why don't you Hydra Bane anymore, Pig? I just enjoy mutas a little bit more because it's hard to finish the game with Hydras. Hydras like really good defensively on creep, kind of hard to attack with them. So often you find yourself just using them as a way to get to Hive Tech, and I prefer to try to win at Lair Tech and only go to Hive Tech kind of like if the game gets forced to that stage. That's just my idea of fun. I always prioritize fun over whatever I think is the strongest strategy at the time. Now, sometimes there's a mix because obviously it's not fun if you lose every game. So it's a bit of both.
There's the point there. And the reason I go Hydra Ling Bane is because I like mutas more. I think every Zerg likes mutas more. Every true Zerg does. But
yeah, man.
But then there's the point where either you're microing your mutas and then you don't have enough Lings and Banes because you've been missing injects, which is my problem a lot of the time, or you lose track for 2 seconds and 12 mutas are gone. And
you got some decent connections, so close to getting the money. I think you can fight here though. But yeah, you kind of went for an opportunistic engage there rather than a carefully set up one, which I can't hate on at all. But
I mean, he's on creep. Like, I got Banelings in the front. You got that.
If your Hydra Concave was ready though, I think you could have just followed through on that initial bit and crushed it, and suddenly momentum would be yours. One thing I want to check right now, creep queens. You have 1 queen on hotkey number 2. Is that your creep queen?
I had like 3 or 4, but they defended a drop at the 4th, I believe, at my gold base, so I lost most of them. Is what happened. I usually hotkey on 2, yeah. Usually I have 3 to 4. I usually just open up with 5, 6 queens, so.
Okay, cool. So at this point, you just use it to inject, but I think this is a big point we often
I use
forget
the camera locations to inject.
Good man. That's
yeah, you can see a little bit of that there. I like the camera locations because they carry over into playing Terran and Protoss too. So.
I think. Oh, okay. You do put down the creep. Okay, it was just a little bit slow. Yeah. So I was pointing out. I was like, does this creep queen actually go to replace that creep? Because that's one of the biggest things I find.
Sometimes
like,
I'm just too slow.
About creep spread in game. Yeah, it happens. I think it's just one of those things. Like, you got to remind yourself that, like, from the Terran perspective, there is nothing more antagonizing than a Zerg that always replaces creep. Like, The
Oh,
game
yeah.
drags on, the game drags on. Think about the messy games you win when you're playing TVZ. The scrappy, long games.
Well, this is about where it's about to go. Well, yeah, the creep is... I don't...
Yeah.
I've been getting better. What I usually do is if I see a queen die, I'll just pull one off injects and rebuild a queen at that hatch immediately instead of, like, building another queen and going out. But it takes, like, I think you need to play enough. I think it's one of those things that if you're not playing at least a few games a day, you're going to forget the next time you come back and play. I know I do. If I haven't been playing, like, high-level games for a couple days, or I take a break, it's like, oh yeah, I do this, and that helps me win games. But this is when I think every Zerg has been, especially at the higher level, been in this scenario. He's got a drop in the bottom left, Liberators in 2 bases, and still 4 bases, and...
Oh, I didn't even notice the libs. Oh, that's
brutal. Yeah, this is where it starts getting to that. This is where I think I've played pretty well so far, but it starts to fall apart. You know that feeling of, oh, wait a second, where are all my units going? Where are my drones? I can't mine. Everything's terrible.
You kind of went for the impatient counterattack, right? Like this is often what used to kill me in early Legacy a lot, until I really disciplined myself. And this is what I talk about. Hydras aren't that good at attacking. There's no way you die if you're sitting defensively and you just focus on your creep spread and kind of defending harass, and then just like absorb his pushes and then keep spreading creep. And that's like your only goal. Like you were in the driver's seat in this game, but the moment you pushed across the map, there's always like that chance that like he slides in like a drop here, liberator there, defends your counterattack because Hydras just don't pack that much of a punch off creep, especially here because they don't have attack upgrades. So like these Hydras are really suffering at this stage of the game, damage-wise, like against Marauders and Marines with their 3 or 4 armor, right? But I think you were in an okay position, and this is something where like it's just hard to sit back sometimes. You're like defend, defend, defend. You feel like the Terran's controlling, but if you can kind of like change your mindset to as long as I am spreading creep, I'm pushing you out of this game. And remember, that's what it feels like as the Terran. If the creep just keeps pushing further and further, every time you push, even if you feel like you win a fight, you come back and somehow the creep is even closer to your side of the map. And you're like, oh, so that's my mindset. What I do is I say, in a macro game, especially with like Hydra Bane, where it's hard to finish the game, yeah, I might do a bit of a Baneling counterattack or a Zergling counterattack, but most of my army's on defense, and it's all about the map control. Every time I win a fight, spread more creep. Every time I do a good counterattack, sweet, his attention's pulled away, spread more creep. And that's like my path to winning. My win condition isn't kill the Terran buildings. It's put so much creep on the map, the Terran feels like leaving the game. That's actually how I force Terran out.
That's a good way to think about it. I don't know, like, when I play Terran, I feel that way, but for some reason, when I play Zerg, I'm not thinking that same way. Because I know how much pressure a Terran feels to, like, just be on the map and be doing something useful, because the Zerg will just overwhelm you. But as a Zerg, it's like, oh my god, I need to do something before the Terran somehow gets too scary. Which,
this is why once in a while you should do Reddit therapy. You should just go on and find like the saltiest thread you can find and scroll right to the bottom where there's like all the downvoted comments, and that's your fuel. That's actually like where I choose my strategy. This is something I don't tell people very often, right? But this is how I decide what builds I'm going to do. Whenever I'm lost in a matchup, I go to Reddit. I find it's just a thread talking about balance. You open it up and you just hear like a Protoss player like Zerg all ins, man. Have you been Ling dropped while they flood the front before? Oh, F Blizzard, they're so shit. I hate David Kim.
Without the mothership core, I can't defend.
Yeah, this is terrible. You know, you find the Zerg complaining about Terran at this, Terran complaining about creep, and I grab that idea, that like one thing which I know is frustrating to play against. It's like, yeah, I've experienced that. That is hard to play against.
Battle.net forums are pretty good for that too.
Will be rewarded.
Oh, dude, that's like actually too deep. I don't even know if I can.
It's like, okay, are we even playing the game anymore?
I don't know. Yeah, they're just proposing that like ultras can fly.
Completely unrelated. Completely unrelated. Just an aside. But one of my games to play to fill time on stream, I haven't done it much lately, is play posts or games where you see a salty thread on Battle.net that's talking about balance, and then you decide, and then you try to guess before seeing their profile, do they have more career games or Battle.net posts? And that's always a fun one.
Oh, nice.
I lost all my infestors for free, so that didn't do much there. Yeah. I had a good army again, and then I lost all my infestors and got cornered in the most obvious corner. That's literally a corner.
because rather than take a deep breath and respread the creep on the north, yeah, he was just a little bit overeager. And, you know, it almost worked. Like, you know, you got this base on the bottom. You did some really good damage, but, you know, just not quite enough. This was still a very close game. But, yeah, I think if you just took a breath and said, let's just get more creep at one or 2 points, like, suddenly you do run away with that game. And like you said, it's that pressure the Terran has to be harassing and doing all that sort of stuff. So this is, like, a really cool way of, like, adjusting your mindset. Just a few very quick shout outs. I want to say a massive thanks to High Name as David and the massive number of subs that he has gifted today. That's huge. Thank you very much. Is it okay if I answer throw out a question or two to us, Winter, or did you have
How dare you
to a shout out or anything?
I mean, I'd like to shout out Hi, my name is David for gifting that massive amount of subs. Thanks for that. And also to Top as well. How thoughtful. Oh yeah, thank you.
All right. So,
So a
we got a question from Plasmid. He says, is the role of Infestors reduced in ZVT after the Infestor nerf? I think the Infestor is still really good. I think before it was OP, in my opinion. And I said that when they first announced 3.8 a year and a bit ago.
When that could burrow fungal?
Yeah. I was like, nope, that's really unfair. That's like super unfair. I was like, that's just not cool for late game ZVT. But they have increased the radius. So even though you can't fungal while burrowed, it's still got a bigger radius. And people say, yeah, but it doesn't lock them in place now. And I say, yeah, that pretty much only matters for fungal bile combo against Medivacs.
Well, against blink stalkers is another thing. Stalkers
oh,
can
because they
blink.
can still blink.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. That's actually a very meaningful change. But against Terran, I'm like, dude, if I can hit an extra 12
it's still
Marines
a ton of
with my
damage.
fungal,
Like,
massive. Yeah, it's like, what are they going to do? You've seen Marines trying to spread at 1/4 speed, 25% speed. It's like, it's laughable. Your Banelings and Hydras are going to laugh at that. So I think Infestors are still really good. Not quite as powerful before, but still really good. And this one's for you, Winter. Meat Slider says, why aren't Ravens used more to help Terran clear creep?
oh, how many times have I ranted about this? Because your starport time is valuable. And we both know you're just gonna fly that Raven into its death. I know because I do. Almost every time. The scans are just more reliable, and not having Medivacs or Liberators hurts you badly, especially if you're going mech. I can see the Raven, like, just get a Raven if you have a starport, that's not a big deal. But if you're going bio, that lack of Medivac and Liberator, just anything in the air, those are usually the units that help you pressure and win the game. If you don't have Medivacs or Liberators at important timings, and you instead got a Raven, that's gonna hurt you more than it's gonna save you money on scans or anything like that. That's not 100% the case, but like 95.
Exactly. Like, if you can squeeze one in, it is awesome over time. But it's just a fact that, like, you need to be doing stuff to slow down Zerg, right? So I don't know if you read the balance changes yet, Winter, but they are actually going to build the auto turret back on. So so yeah, it's definitely going to come back into play.
Are they gonna? Did they say if it's going to have the same stats?
The Raven, yes, it's going to have the same stats. They are going to.
Is it replacing the Scrambler?
No, because they're still going to have Interference Matrix, or Scrambler, as the better name was, which they got rid of. I don't know why.
I think it's a better name.
I think we all think that, yeah. We're like, why'd you change that? They're getting rid of the Repair Drone, because that's like the least impactful spell. Because the problem with it
was very useful, but auto turrets are better.
Yeah, I mean, the whole unit was like if the game goes for an hour and I survive the whole time, I'll be really worth it. And if it doesn't,
if you kept a Raven alive for enough energy to get multiple repair drones.
And clear up multiple creep tumors. But the problem is, if it dies, you're just like, well, that did nothing, didn't it? You know, so it just wasn't impactful enough. But by bringing back the turret, you're going to say, cool, I can harass with this a little bit, and then it can come back and clear up creep. And that's where I think Bioplay is gonna come back in a big way with Raven openings, as we saw back around BlizzCon.
I think there's a chance it might change up TVP a little bit as well, if they bring that back.
Yeah,
because the Raven can be very useful in TVP, but I mean, a lot of other things.
People aren't opening Stargate, yeah, why not? Drop some auto turret harass, man.
Who opened Stargate now that oracles are completely useless, obviously, against Marines and SCVs?
Creative versus innovation, and we saw how those games went, didn't we?
God. Well, I said this, and I wasn't being sarcastic about it. Creators playing 2017 builds in 2018. All right? What do you do? That was just sad to watch. He was just trying not to get Protoss nerfed, okay? They had the Protoss Illuminati came together in Korea and said, "Creator, we have to sacrifice you." to save protons. But unfortunately, it didn't
Give
work.
our wins to hero and stats. You sorry, creator, you gotta take one for the team, buddy. Oh, the boys are pulled. A couple of decent fungals
I
on the
was
bottom.
even on supply, but he still had bases, so I had to take fights in there. I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
So.
You were dead, eh? Oh, good question from Salty Rutabaga. Says, total noob question. How do I go about making a concave? Basically, you just box your units and you spread them out. So let's imagine on my screen.
I will take command of me in this scenario. How about that?
Can you do that?
Yeah, why not?
You can take command while you're.
I'm using default interface. So.
Oh, cool, nice. Oh. Did it work?
Can you see?
Yeah, I can see you moving your stuff around. Cool.
Yeah, there you go. So
okay,
you'll explain it and I'll demonstrate. All right, I'll be the person. I'll be the booth babe here.
All right, so basically it's all about boxing and clicking, and that's like 90% of your micro is you just box units and click them to tell them to move somewhere. Now this doesn't look like a concave, but notice how Winter literally just said everybody move there, boxed some hydras and told them to move there, boxed some hydras, told them to move there, and then he attack moved, and they automatically will form a concave. So all you need to do is spread your units out a bit into what I like to call the banana grin moon of death, or just a straight line, either way, and they will naturally form a battle line or a concave. You notice how the ones at the end trying to get in range will automatically kind of come down and form into a nice concave. So it's all just about boxing your units and spreading them out a bit. So I like to call it 2-box micro, which is like the most fundamental micro, which 90% of players can benefit. And I've talked about this for hours and hours in old YouTube videos, which you can go look up if you want, my early big dailies. Basically, it's just a matter of you going box, click, or in this case, it was, just a single box click, and then an attack move. That's like, hey, take your hands off the keyboard, and you've done 1,000 times better micro than most people through Platinum League.
I think the biggest mistake through Platinum League are people who underestimate how important A-clicking is as well. The amount of right clicks, like any amount of micro that isn't A-clicking, like if you're Platinum or below and you're trying to focus fire things, that's going to hurt you more times than it's going to help you. So many times units, like right now, if I just right-click the SCV accidentally, or I'm just trying to target it down, and then the planetary or whatever else is firing. It usually happens with like trying to target down siege tanks with your entire army or something like that. But just A-clicking is already going to help you make a concave quicker than right-clicking anything. Yeah.
Especially against splash damage. Like that's what we really saw there. Was like the way the Hydras clumped up when you clicked on that SCV. All it takes is one telling your whole army to attack one unit. And every unit will clump up as tight as possible trying to get to that point, and it's just disgusting because if there's siege tanks around or planetaries or a storm or anything, that's where your army gets totally wrecked. So,
I think just something to add on to as well as how melee units work. This isn't really like a concave for melee units, but just I don't know. This just got into my head. The little trick of if you want to try to actually kill SCVs, hold position. If you use hold position, they attack everything in range and won't chase like this bunker or whatever.
Yeah.
Don't be doing that if you're not like working on diamond, but
can you grab like just a small handful? Like if you just only have a few as well, you go into that planetary on the middle right as well. You can go there. And if you got a small number, it's kind of bad to hold position, right? A lot of the time, because especially if you've only got like 3 or 4. In that case, it's just shift click, right? So you can show us a shift click. And even if you just click on 3 or 4 of the SCVs, obviously if there's a planetary here, this would achieve nothing. But that's like the other way of like, if you got a small number of lings and you're like, well, let's just make sure they kill a few because otherwise they'll automatically aggro onto queens, or in this case, marines or hellions. And that's like a really big thing. And you know what's funny there is that's melee units, right? And I think that's one of the more common things is people know how to do that with melee units. People don't do that with range units enough. And I don't know, do you ever hold position hydras behind mineral lines against mech?
Those little,
because that's like
little
the
stuff
most
like that.
underused
Well,
thing.
that comes from just splitting off roaches and ZVZ over and over. Is just that tactic.
Exactly.
Which bleeds over into the other map.
Such a good habit, man.
Until I hit the select army hotkey and it all goes to shit.
Yep.
But before that,
the number of games I win just because of that. Because Terran's a very mechanically intense race, and even if it's like a lot of people have this mindset of like, oh, but if they just send a few Hellions, they'll just clean it up, and it's like, yeah. Now go sit in the Terran shoes and try to constantly send Hellions to clean up every single mineral line on the map.
I think
trying to harass and do everything else.
Everybody
Oh,
could benefit
so
from
good.
a little perspective. All right, spend a few days as a Protoss if you can't beat Protoss. Spend a few days as a Zerg, and then come back and see maybe some new insight or maybe a newfound hatred. Who knows? But
embrace the Ember. Embrace it. So yeah, that's actually something where like honestly it's really big is doing that. And if you hold position, I do it with Marines a lot in mineral lines, roaches, any range unit. I do it with Adepts as well. If I'm too lazy to focus fire,
Adepts
or
are a
if I've
big
just
one,
got a ton of them, I will just hold position in the mineral line. Because what will happen, right, is if you've got like a whole bunch of Adepts in a mineral line, say here, I'm really showing this to my screen, sorry guys on Winter's stream. Basically, say they're just sitting next to the command center, all it takes is one Marauder to come over and shoot the Adepts, and rather than killing the mineral line of SCVs, or one Queen, they're all going to go, try and get that Marauder or Queen. They're all going to headbutt behind each other, like, let me at him, and there's going to be like 2 Adepts hitting the Marauder or Queen, and the rest are just going to be going, let us pass, and you'll come back and you'll be like, I had 20 Adepts in this mineral line. How did they kill not a single worker?
I still enjoy.
You'll just like start screeching. You'll go to make an angry Reddit thread about how Zerg's broken. But hold position is the lazy man's harassment micro. I just hold position those bad boys, and I'll only attack stuff that's in range. So yeah, the 1 or 2 that are in range of the Queen will shoot her, but the rest will automatically just shoot whatever's near them, which most of the time there's no fighting units near them, so they'll kill workers. So if you want to do lazy man micro, like me and Winter are always doing on our streams, because we're not real pro gamers, we're just entertainers, then you can also use hold position, and you'll have some fun.
there you go. That took a turn from. But yeah, I think those are the basics. I think both of us have some more advanced guides on there, or more detailed ones on all the little tricks and hotkeys and like shift clicking and all the things you can do with shift keys and camera locations and all of that. But all right. So